So this is an excerpt from an interview I did with actor Gino Cafarelli, and his new movie, Cruise, actually just came out today, September 28th. You can rent it. This is all over the place. iTunes, Amazon Prime. Definitely go check it out. It's a really cool throwback movie. It takes place in 1987 in New York. There's racing. There's sort of a summer of love kind of thing. It's got a really cool cast. This is Gino sort of talking about the whole production, because he created the idea and acted as a producer and everything. So really cool perspective from somebody heavily involved with this movie. No spoilers, so you can watch this clip of this full interview now, and then go check out Cruise tonight or anytime this weekend. I recommend checking it out. So I hope you enjoy this interview clip.
It's been a long journey with this one. There were hurdles, just like anything in filmmaking. It's you kind of fall and get back up and try again. You gotta have that. You have to have that kind of Rocky mentality where you said, it doesn't how hard you hit, but how many times you can get hit and start move forward. That's the acting world and the creative world, the writing world, and any artist or filmmaker can tell you that gotta persevere and just keep it going.
Yeah, well, you're executive producer on it, right?
Yeah. It's it actually started. It started as a short story. I wrote a pilot. It's really like a 10-year process. This whole thing was like a 10-year process. 2008 started just doodling. A few friends in the industry said, write what you know about, and at the time, it didn't make sense until I said, well, I know that I used to cruise the boulevard in my neighborhood, Francis Lewis Boulevard and Franny Lew, and I know that it's a throwback piece, and we're like, we're in the 2000s, and it can be very nostalgic because, again, technology changing every single second of the day. I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna start writing what I know about. I started writing a pilot and wrote a pilot and kind of like sat on it for a little bit, worked on it for a little bit. Little time went by. Put together a promo, which was like a 30-second promo for the concept. It wasn't a proof of concept yet. And then fast forward, like it's 2012, and I shoot a short story proof of concept pitch presentation based on the pilot, and started with that. And I really indirectly, I really didn't shop it or pitch it. I kind of knew I had lightning in a bottle with the concept. I started really talking to some close friends in the industry, and they were like, you could do it as a series or you could do it as a film. And I kind of wanted to do it as a series. And then I was like, you know what, let me show or talk to another fellow filmmaker who I worked with, and who's also a friend, Robert Siegel. He directed and wrote a film called Big Fan. He also wrote The Wrestler. Yeah. And he casted me, which is a story in itself. He casted me through YouTube. He found me on YouTube.
Oh, really? Yeah. I was going to ask you about that because I like that movie. I mean, I saw it back when it released, but I liked it. I mean, I still remember it really well.
Yeah, he found me. He found me on. I got a phone call. I was living in LA. It was 2006, and by 2008, when I started kind of writing Franny Lew, he had called me, and I thought it was a joke. I thought it was one of my friends because I had put a reel. And a friend of mine, an actor in New York, who I'm still friends with, Paul Gennaro, he tagged it in a certain way and said, let me put your reel on YouTube. And I'm like, well, I don't really, it shows what I booked as an actor, but it doesn't really show what I can do as an actor. But he's like, no, it's YouTube. And YouTube was out for just a few years.
Yeah.
So he was like, well, let me tag it in a certain way and we'll put it on YouTube. And he had put it on YouTube. And 3 months later, it's 2008, 3 months later, I get a phone call. I said, oh my God, I forgot. I left my number on my reel on YouTube. I'm like, I'm going to start getting calls from like strangers. Like, I don't know how YouTube works. They get my phone number. They'll start pranking me or whatever. So I get this call. I'm bartending in Beverly Hills, and it's a Sunday, and I get this call from Robert Siegel, and he's like, hey, I got you. I saw your reel on YouTube. And I'm doing a film called Big Fan. You look like Patton Oswalt's like more charismatic brother. and I want to offer you a role in the film. I want you to read the script. And I really thought it was a joke, and I really kind of like hung up on him in a way. Not abruptly, but I was like, you guys, someone was messing with me here. I thought it was one of my buddies back home.
Yeah.
And he called me back, and he's like, no, I just wrote a movie called The Wrestler. I just wrapped on a film called The Wrestler. Now, I knew what The Wrestler was because I had read about it in the trades. It was like Mickey Rourke doing a movie about a wrestler. So I knew about the movie, but it wasn't where it was yet.
Yeah.
That all the hype happened like a year later. So I was like, oh yeah, I know. I heard about that film. It's kind of like going to be Mickey Rourke's comeback film. And he sent me The Wrestler and he sent me Big Fan, and I read both and I was blown away.
Yeah.
And he basically, no audition, no nothing.
Wow.
Offered me the role over the phone. I basically said, my family lives in New York. If you're offering me the role, I'd love to do it. I'll fly myself to New York. I'll stay with my parents. And I'd love to do the film. I think both scripts, especially the role that you're offering me, is fantastic, and I'd love to do it. And my first day that I met Robert Siegel, I was in Staten Island changing out of a car, and it was freezing out. we're literally like I was changing. My trailer was like, I think at the time, I forgot, it was I think it was a Chevette. I was changing out of a car. And then the rest kind of was like, history. But when I was doing the film, I knew there was something special, happening because the writing was so great. And it just felt right. And then a year later, The Wrestler came out before Big Fan, and Big Fan got into Sundance. And, thankful and grateful to Robert Siegel for like just taking the shot. Like he just said, no, you look like you can act, and you look like you could play his brother, and just his instinct told him to cast me, and that was it. So, getting back to how Crew started, I indirectly, like years later, Big Fan came out in 2009, 10. It was at Sundance, and then it came out, and then was making the cable circuit, like Showtime and a bunch of other cable slots, and just kept in touch with Rob. He was working on a few things, and I just indirectly said to him, I shot something and wrote a pilot based on, what I did back in 1987, just getting out of high school, cruising, picking up girls, and kind of like pitched it as like an American Graffiti meets Saturday Night Fever meets Grease. I wanted to pitch it as a poor man's Entourage, as a series. And he saw the presentation and he read my pilot. He's like, wow, I didn't know you could write. And I was taken back. I was like, wow, cool. It was great to hear that from someone like Rob, who's a fantastic writer. Say, well, I didn't know you could write. You write pretty good. I said, well, what do you think? He's like, I'd like to do this as a movie. And I was like, okay. And that's, we kind of took it from that. Franny, at the time it was called Franny Lew. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to kind of like just let this one play out. And I'd love to work with Rob again. And it just started just kind of like, growing. And the script was written and we sat down and I gave him a bunch of info on how I kind of grew up around that neighborhood and, what I did. And he banged out a fantastic script. And then we just started kind of like looking who was going to be involved with it as far as financing it and what studio would pick it up or, what actors wanted to get involved with it. And fast forward again, a process, another 3 years. And then finally it happened. We shot the movie in 2015.
Yeah. So you got to, you were, I guess, key in a lot of those decisions, like the casting and stuff.
Well, he was saying, what do you, this is what I'm thinking for, Gio, or this is what I'm thinking for Jessica. And he just, he has such a, like he knows what he wants and he's got, I guess he's very intuitive and has instinct. Like he took a shot on me without really seeing what I could really do as an actor. So I was like, you know what, whatever, casting, decisions he's going with, I'm like, he's going with his gut. He feels like it's right, and he kind of nails it all the time. He's very intuitive. He's got that instinct of like, the right casting, the right flavor. Certain roles. There was certain like roles in the script that, he said, well, who are you thinking? Who would you think? We shared some ideas of like who we would cast. But ultimately, and I saw a lot of the auditions. He would send me the auditions and stuff like that. And we had the same taste in like actors. Like we would always agree on like, like of course everyone kind of wants to cast the leads first and then, the secondary actors in a film. So we had the two leads, and then it was, time to cast the rest of the film. And he would send me over the audition tapes, and we would always pick the same actors. Like, like that guy and that guy, I think were my two favorite. And like, literally like 10 out of 10 times we would like be on the same actors. Like, yeah, you're right. Like those are the two best ones. We have the same taste because we both love movies.
Yeah, and I guess had a feel for the flavor of what you were wanting to get, because the trailer's got like a cool vibe to it. It's got that 80s retro thing, but so much of the 80s retro stuff to me is like Stranger Things. It's the horror stuff, but this has got like a really kind of bright, kind of vibrant 80s.
Yeah, that was what the DP was fantastic, and that's what he was going for. A gloss to it, like the cars pop, the colors pop. It's just got that beautiful. It pops off the screen, It's,
and a lot of it's at night, and it looks good. Like the street lights and stuff look really good in it. What can you tell me about the car?
All right, the car's got a little story to it also.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of nostalgia and history, again, with the project. It's again, like I joke around about it, and I'm like, well, the lead character is loosely based on me, and he's like 6 foot, and I'm like 5'8". You know what I'm saying? But it's you have to kind of have the Hollywood formula too. The good-looking kid, the good-looking kid and the good-looking girl, romantic drama. But the car is like a character in itself.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. It was specifically designed to kind of be a feature.
Oh, yeah. And it just so happened that the car. I went to high school. I went to Holy Cross High School in Flushing, New York, and it was an all-boys school. Now it just turned co-ed like weeks ago.
Oh, so yeah, I did all-boys Catholic as well.
Oh, you did? High school?
Yep. Elementary was co-ed, but then 7th to 12th was all boys. Yeah.
Yeah, I went elementary 2 up until 8th grade, and then I went to an all-boys school, Holy Cross. But my buddy from Holy Cross, again, it takes place in the summer of '87. It's the year that I graduated from high school.
Okay.
He had a Grand National. Like my first car was a Cutlass Supreme, an '81 Cutlass Supreme. And it had a custom-made IROC blue. Remember the IROC blue back in the 80s? Custom-made IROC blue paint shop on it. But he had a brand-new 1987 Grand National. And that was the car. I think the Grand National came out in '86. I may be wrong, but it was like the Grand National. It's like the fastest car around. And like it'll blow away any muscle car that has whatever in it. And it was the fastest car. And the big thing back then was you would paint on the back of a car like the name of the car. Or you would put something cool pinstripe. It was goofy. Like I had owls etched in my windows, in my side windows, with like my name in the moon. It was always like something that kind of like because I was always out. I was a night owl. I was out all the time. He had an emblem painted on it that said "Smoking Six," because I think that was the first 6-cylinder turbo. Again, I'm not a big technical car guy, even though the guy in the movie does race. I never raced. I was more of like a cruiser. I just kind of like laid back, and a lot of the pickup lines in the movie were real pickup lines that I did when I was cruising the boulevard. But it was a car that he still had now.
Oh,
and for years I'm like, I'm gonna get this movie made. I'm gonna get this movie made. I'm gonna get this movie made. And I'm like, he's like, when you're ready and you're gonna get the movie made. Like he wasn't around when I shot the proof of concept, the short story, but he was like, when you're ready to shoot the movie, you can have my car. And I asked him if we could use your car, and that was the car. And it was called Smoking Six. And in the film, it's like Smoking Six. Like it's like a character within itself. It's like a character within itself, Smoking Six. So that was pretty cool.
And it seems like the car gets a lot of use in the movie too. I mean, it's in almost every shot of the trailer.
Yeah. No, that's his baby. That's like everybody remembers their first car. Like he's known in the film for like being the king of the boulevard. you know. And let me tell you, Spencer Boldman did a fantastic job in the film. So did Emily Ratajkowski. Everyone.
Yeah, I was
whole
asking
cast.
about the two of them. So Boldman, I'm not familiar with him at all. What's his story?
He's an ex-Disney kid. He was in Lab Rats, and he kind of wanted to like change his kind of image as an actor. He's a real dedicated actor. I mean, you know, some young people today just kind of like want to like, you know, be famous or like the spotlight. He's from Dallas, Texas, and really serious about his acting. Like and again, and Rob saw him. He saw him in an interview on YouTube, I think it was. And he's like, I like the way that guy sounds. I like what he did in that interview, and he has that natural kind of like Stallone vibe. Like he's got a deep voice, and he kind of looks like a young Matt Dillon, like a taller version of Matt Dillon. So I knew exactly what Rob was talking about when he was talking about casting him, because it's very hard. The hardest thing was looking for an actor like back in the 70s when they casted John Travolta for like Saturday Night Fever. Like he was like tailor-made, perfect. Like it was very hard to find a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid that's from New York that kind of like has been around for a little while as an actor. You know, we weren't looking for an unknown because, then it would just, again, you got to play the, not the name game, but you have to get certain names attached to it. He's an ex-Disney kid. So was Ryan Gosling. So was a few other actors. So he said, a lot of these actors were coming in acting like they were from New York, or they were from New York and they weren't natural by New York.
Yeah.
And he just sounded like a very neutral, like, tough guy, New York guy, like, and it works. And it works because it's not forced at all. And, the acting is there, but it seemed just very organic, very natural. So he was like, again, he went on his instinct. He was very intuitive about it. He was like, that's my guy.
Well, like this movie would be the first time I'll see him. And anytime there's somebody like that does a really good job, it always makes me wonder, like, that when it's the first time I see him, like, is that really what they're like, or are they just putting on a great performance? And it's hard to tell if it's an actor you've never seen, if that's just genuinely them, or if it's just a really performance. That happens to me all the time.
Because I've seen him a few times after we shot the film, and I see him on interviews now, and he's like, I saw him on an interview in Texas. He just did an interview, and he had this James Dean jacket on, and he had this like James Dean hair, and he's got such a baby face. I mean, he's a great looking kid. Like the girls. I mean, I see the remarks that the girls leave on his Instagram or his Facebook, and I'm just in love with this kid. And he just on screen pops off with just this jaw, like he just looks like an Adonis. Like he gets out of his Grand National, and he's like, he kind of had that also James Dean vibe when he got out of that car. So again, it was very, I guess, intuitive on Rob's part to be like, no, that's my guy. But it's definitely, he seems more adult-like in the movie. And when I see him on interviews and when I talk to him, he's 26 now, 27, and he's a kid. But he seems like when I was 17, or when my friends were like back then, where we were like, scrapping around. We were like adults at 17.
Yeah.
So he kind of, doesn't look like a kid, but is a kid in the film because he's supposed to be like, 17, 18, 19 years old. Yeah. But he had that adult vibe. Like the guys in the film, even his best friend, who's played by Lucas Saliano, he comes across as an adult. So it definitely worked, and it's definitely not the guy that if you saw him in the street and you had a conversation with him, you wouldn't think it was Gio Fortunato from the film.
Yeah. Well, he's a good-looking dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Emily, good.
Okay.
She's like she seems like she's too good-looking to be able to act well, she just seems like she's so good looking. She seems like that kind of actress people would just give roles to. But like in was it Gone Girl? I mean, that's a big movie with. I mean, David Fincher. That's a daunting thing considering she had very little experience. I think she did a great job in that. So I'm be interested to see her in this as well.
She's a good actor.
Yeah.
I was a little skeptical too because I was like, oh, it's the Blurred Lines girl, and I know I've seen it,
Yeah.
but can she carry a film with the love interest and play a lead in the film? And then I saw We're Your Friends. I was like, no, she's pretty good, and she did a fantastic job in Cruise. She's got a bright future.
She's a good. I like having those two as like having a generational thing there.
Yeah.
That's at least what it seemed like to me when I saw the two of them on the cast list. I was like, oh, okay. She's like, I initially, before I really knew or even saw the trailer, I was like, oh, maybe Emily's the young version of Catherine's character or something.
Is that what you thought?
Yeah, just when I saw the two of them next to each other on IMDb, I'm like, oh, maybe. And then saw you and Spencer. I'm like, oh, maybe it's like a time difference or a generational thing. And then obviously the trailer says otherwise, but. It seemed like a good casting as far as like having a generational thing.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, I know, my generation is going to be totally in love with it because of the music and the time period and the clothes and the cars. I'm curious to see what the, millennial generation and the younger generation is going to think of the film. I just, because they probably hear stories from their parents about it. And I've run into like kids that like, oh, my dad used to cruise the boulevard, and they're like, oh, I can't wait till the movie comes out because, again, to them it's nostalgia, but it's like, I want to know what kind of like my parents, what they did back then, so they're curious about it. So I'm curious to think what they're going to think of the film because
it'll be interesting because I think the music and the look they're definitely going to like, and I'd be curious to see. I'm kind of the generation in between, like the I guess your age and the people depicted in the movie. My parents were a little older than that, they're in 87. But I
87 was heaven.
What's that?
87 was heaven.
Now, 87 would have been my, probably last year of daycare.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.